Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Srilankanbeauty. Welcome to the news. Now, before we get into your news in detail, let's first take a look at your headlines.
Bonds placed at 23 electoral districts for upcoming polls. The 10 billion rupees allocated for the election is more than enough, says Election Commissioner General. Government still attempting to postpone the election. Opposition claims.
මැතිවරණය කෙසේ හෝ කල් දමා ගැනීම තමයි ඔවුන්ගේ උත්සාහය.
මැතිවරණ කොමිසමට අනියම් බලපෑමක් කරන්න ඡන්දේ පවත්වන්න එපා කියලා.
Former President Chandrika and Maithripala celebrate Bandaranaike birthday separately. Minister says proposal to increase electricity tariffs will receive cabinet approval tomorrow. Senior journalist Lasantha Wickrematunga's death anniversary, 14 years without justice. Lasantha's daughter says will fight to the end. New species of fungus affecting paddy cultivations in 5 districts. Bacteria affects cabbage cultivation in Kandy.
Will elections be held before the 10th of March 2023? 62 days more.
Now on to your top story. With the local government election just months away, political parties are placing bonds to field their candidates. Now, the Commissioner General of Elections, Saman Sri Ratnayaka, said that the 10 billion rupees allocated for the local government election is sufficient.
10 billion rupees is sufficient to hold the elections. Sometimes it might even be less. The previous election was estimated to cost 8 billion rupees due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but we managed to spend only 5.8 billion rupees. Therefore, we believe that we will be able to hold this election with the estimated amount or even lesser than that. We initially asked for 11 billion rupees, but then we estimated it at 9.3 billion. However, 10 billion rupees was allocated in the budget.
Bonds had been placed at all 23 electoral districts in the country. 3 political parties, including the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, as well as 5 other independent groups, have placed their bonds. According to the Elections Commission, the accepting of bonds for the local government election will end at 12 noon on the 20th of January. Nominations for the polls will be accepted from the 18th of this month. Accepting of nominations will end at 12 noon on the 21st. How will political parties contest the upcoming local government polls? The Samagijana Balavegya, which is the largest opposition party, will begin placing their bonds for the election from tomorrow. The National People's Power has decided to contest the upcoming election as a broad alliance. The United National Party is yet to decide on how they will contest the election. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party is expected to make an announcement on how they will contest the election during the course of the next few days. The Freedom People's Congress and the Uttara Lanka Sabagya has decided to contest the election under a broad alliance. The Frontline Socialist Party that contested for the previous elections separately will contest the upcoming election independently again. The Sri Lanka Muslim Congress that is in an alliance with the Samagijana Balavegya will contest separately only in several selected districts. The Tamil National Alliance, that is the largest party in the north and east, has not yet decided on how they are going to contest the upcoming polls. The Elam People's Democratic Party, or the EPDP, led by Douglas Devananda, will contest together with the SLPP in several electorates under the symbol of the violin. The Tamil Makkal Viduthalai Pulikal, or the TMVP, led by Sivanesathurai Chandrakanthan, will contest together with the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in several electorates under the symbol of the boat. The Ceylon Workers' Congress, the party with the largest voter base in the hill country, has not yet announced on how they will contest the upcoming polls. The new Sri Lanka Freedom Party, led by Kumara Velgama, who entered parliament under the SJB ticket, has announced that they will contest the upcoming polls separately. The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, which is the governing party, has already placed bonds in several electorates and has begun signing nomination papers.
They signed nomination papers in the Hambantota, Ratnapura, Puttalam, Matale and Ampara districts. Nomination papers of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna for 12 local government bodies in the Puttalam district were signed by the candidates today.
දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ හැටියට පුත්තලම දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ ජයග්‍රහණය ඉතාමත්ම පැහැදිලිව අපිට පේන්න තියෙනවා. ඒ වගකීම අපි බාර ගන්නවා.
ඒකේ ඡන්දය තියෙනවද?
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම.
දැන් ඔය විපක්ෂය කියන්නේ පොහොට්ටු ඡන්දෙට බයයි කියලා.
It is very clear who is afraid and who is not. The Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna went and deposited bonds as soon as the election was announced. There is an old adage. It says that when a group is walking past a cemetery, those who are scared the most shout the loudest. The people who are afraid to go and meet the public are pointing fingers and saying that other people are scared. We are not afraid to go and meet the public.
මේ පාර මොන පක්ෂද එකතු කරගත්තේ?
රාජපක්ෂවරුන්ගේ පක්ෂය මේක සැලුන් දොරනේ තියෙන්නේ. ඕන කෙනෙකුට ඇතුළට එන්න පුළුවන්, ඕන කෙනෙකුට එළියට යන්න පුළුවන්. කිසි ගැටලුවක් නැහැ.
General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Attorney Sagara Kariwasam, said depositing bonds for the election will be completed in the coming week.
The Samagijana Balavege held interviews today to select candidates for the upcoming local government election. The interviews were held at the party head office today.
We can win about 75 to 85% of the local government bodies. We can also win 90 to 95% of the municipal councils. We expect to contest as a party. However, in some districts we might have to join alliances. But our priority is for candidates who represent the Samagijana Balavegya. We expect to contest under the symbol of the telephone.
Now, while all preparations are being made to hold the local government election, allegations of attempts to postpone the election have been levelled after members of the Elections Commission recently held discussions with the head of state.
While the
Independent Election Commission has fixed the date to hold the election, a leader of one of the parties has summoned the Election Commission and is trying to extend undue influence on the Election Commission to persuade them not to hold the election. He is not only the leader of the United National Party, he is also the president chosen by the parliament. While all the other parties are going to the election office, the president, who is the leader of the UNP, has summoned the Election Commission to his office. This shows the president's undue influence that affects a free and fair election and the president's attempt to prevent the election from taking place. Therefore, it is clear that this government is working to move forward without holding an election. Ranil Wickremesinghe and his government has no opportunity to postpone this election either legally or constitutionally. As soon as the economy collapses, when the treasury is completely depleted, they are saying that there is no money to hold an election and saying that because
In our
opinion, the country will become more unstable if the people are denied their right to express their views through an election. We know that the IMF is waiting until the people's mandate is made known. Their proposals and discussions are getting delayed. The political leadership is against an election. They want to postpone it. There is a doubt in society as to if the election will actually be held. But the dates for the election have been announced, and the political authority is disrupting the process.
මේක තියයිද නොතියයිද කියන එක. නමුත් දැන් මේ මැතිවරණයේ ප්‍රකාශයට පත් වෙලා ඉන්නවා දේශපාලන අධිකාරිය කකුලෙන් අදින.
පැහැදිලිවම මේ ජනමතය පෙන්වන්න ජනමතයට අවස්ථාව දෙන්න ඕනේ.
Give a chance to the public to make known their mandate. If you try to summon commissions one by one and threaten them, there won't be any democracy left in this country. IMF will not lend us money. Why is the IMF package getting delayed? That is because they still don't know about the mandate of the people in this country. The International Monetary Fund knows that there was an Aragale in the country and that all 225 MPs have to go home. The IMF knows that the Rajapakshas and their cronies must go home. That is why we are not getting the money yet. Therefore, we would like to inform Ranil Wickremesinghe that the people of this country are in distress. If the people of this country are to overcome those problems, they must make their mandate known through an election. That's when we will get the money from the IMF. If that money is not received, life of the people in the country will continue to become more difficult, and Ranil Wickremesinghe knows that. Even after knowing this, they are trying to impose various conditions and they are trying to bring several bills, all because they are scared of this election. We are against all of these attempts.
Now today is the 124th birthday of SWRD Bandaranaike. Two memorial events to celebrate the birthday of SWRD Bandaranaike were held today.
A memorial was held this morning at the SWRD Bandaranaike statue in Goldface. Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and other politicians as well as relatives of the Bandaranaike family participated in the event.
We have a doubt as to whether they will hold an election. Are they trying to put us in trouble? Are they trying to put others in the party in trouble? The opinion of the people is that there won't be an election, either the general election or the presidential election. I think that those are the elections that can make a difference in the country. Even though we have fielded candidates for this election ourselves, I think they have already made plans in their minds to postpone it. The finance minister says that they won't print money to hold an election because no country in the world does that. Whenever they speak such things, I feel that the election will be postponed. I would like to ask the government not to play games with the general public.
මේ වෙන විටත් අවශ්‍ය ලයිස්තු සකස් කරමින් ඉන්න. තවත් සන්ධානයක් ගත වෙනවද නැත්නම් තනියම දිල්ලා? අපි
We are currently holding discussions between the groups that have left the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the groups that bear progressive ideals and opinions in the parliament, and we are preparing to come together as a very strong alliance.
සූදානමින් සිට.
මැතිවරණයකට යන්න ඕනේ කියලා දැන් මැතිවරණ මේ කාර්යාලයෙන්ු කියලා තියෙනවා මේ පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයට කොහොමද ඔබතුමියගේ අදහස මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්? නීතිය තියෙන්නේ මැතිවරණයක් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. කොහොම කරනවද මන් දන්නේ.
Another memorial was held today at the headquarters of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Many politicians, including former President Maithripala Sirisena, attended the event.
We will win the provincial council election after winning this local government election. We will contest for all local government bodies across the island. Let's be determined to build a better country. Don't say no. Always say yes, we can.
Will elections be held before the 10th of March 2023? 62 days more. Across all walks of life, listening to the people, visiting door to door, witnessing the truth firsthand. This is the heart of the village. Gammetta, for the people, by the people.
Curiosity and a passion for current affairs and the people's interest. 7 years of professionals, diplomats, heads of state, wannabe politicians, and some real ones too. Security forces personnel, members of parliament, and a host of others. Over 1,800 guests, over 900 hours. Newsline Live has represented the people's interest, living the News First ethos, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 9 p.m. Asking the questions you need answers to.
Welcome back to News First. Now, fraud and corruption are two of the primary reasons for the deplorable state of our nation and the shame that her people now have to bear. Now, revealing the names and details of politicians, officials and other powerful people behind this corruption is a service rendered to the people of this country. Lasantha Wickrematunge is a person who had dedicated his life to providing this service to the people of Sri Lanka, and he was murdered for it exactly 14 years ago. Now, today we call to memory his yeoman service to the nation while living in a country where the corrupt individuals who murdered Lasantha had now bankrupted the nation. The memorial event, or I should say a memorial event, was attended by family and friends of the late Lasantha Wickrematunge.
A memorial was held in memory of journalist Lasantha Wickrematunge at the Borella Cemetery. Journalists and other members of civil society were also among those who attended.
At the same time, it's very ironical that from last time when we met, I was not here with COVID, to now, the man who was probably responsible or presided over a lot of these deaths and disappearances and murders and killings. Himself, when asked about the brutal murder of Lasantha, laughed and said, who is Lasantha? Very ironical that he was such a pinnacle of power. Was just seen a few weeks ago wandering aimlessly in the Dubai airport. So when you ask rhetorical question like who is Lasantha, it's good for him to reflect back. But even more ironic, Lasantha's friend, whom I probably last met at his wedding, he's now taken the position that his antagonist has fallen out, and he is now presiding over the state of affairs in his country, protecting the very people that Lasantha stood against or stood to expose. How ironical is that?
In a tweet, Lasantha Wickrematunge's daughter Ahimsa Wickrematunge said, quote, 14 years ago today was the worst day of my life. We love and miss you so much. I am so lucky to be your daughter. I watched your spirit manifest through the Aragale last year, and I wish you were here to see it all. I will fight for you till the end, end quote. Taking to Twitter, Amnesty International South Asia called on the government of Sri Lanka to end impunity over Lasantha Wickrematunge's killing and ensure those responsible are held accountable. Amnesty International South Asia shared a timeline on Twitter of the developments since the incident. The Centre for Justice and Accountability tweeted, quote, this is another somber anniversary with no accountability in Sri Lanka for the killing of Lasantha Wickrematunge, which implicated government security forces. The CJA highlighted that the investigation remains stalled despite the Sri Lankan government's claims that it is committed to resolving the case domestically. The CJA, along with Amnesty International, also called on Sri Lanka to end impunity for Lasantha's killing.
Lasantha Wickrematunge, the fearless journalist. Lasantha, who was the editor of the Sunday Leader newspaper at the time, threw caution to the wind in exposing those who engaged in corruption, even those in the upper echelons of the nation. Lasantha had an appetite for revealing the truth and exposing even the most clandestine misleadings, paving new ways in the field of investigative journalism. Lasantha was undeterred in his work, knowing fully well the substantial risk his line of work brought with it. He breathed his last on a Lasantha, who was acclaimed for his services to the field of journalism and to the nation, was posthumously awarded with the IPI World Press Freedom Hero Award. Since the 8th of January 2009, governments have ascended to power and conceded control to new ones. All the while, the cowardly minions responsible for the death of a courageous soul continue to roam free. Although Lasantha's remains were exhumed on the 27th of September 2016 and a number of arrests were made, no substantial or effective breakthrough has been made to date.
ෆස්ට ක්‍රියාවලට මේ මැර ක්‍රියාවලට එරෙහිව නැගී සිටිය යුතුයි. මේ පළවෙනි වතාවත් මේ වගේ සිද්ධියක් වෙලා තියෙන මේ අවසාන වතාවත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම නොවෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වුණත් අපි අවධානයෙන් මේ තත්ත්වයට මුහුණ දීමට සූදානම් මාධ්‍ය ආයතන සියලු දෙනා එක්මුතු වී මේට මුහුණ දීමට සූදානම් විය යුතු බව පැහැදිලිව කිය යුතුයි.
A mere 48 hours prior to the demise of Lasantha Wickrematunge, on the 6th of January 2009, a gang of thugs attacked and destroyed the then state-of-the-art MTV-MBC broadcasting complex in Deparnama. Lasantha, who always stood for the freedom of the press, arrived at the Deparnama studios a few minutes after the attack and spoke out against it. His courage and ambition to fight for what is right is seen through his actions. Although those responsible for Lasantha's assassination are roaming freely for 14 years, they will never be free from their conscience and the truth. We are not afraid to face off against the forces that stand against revealing details of those who perpetrated acts of corruption and fraud. The power of the people is the force that drives us, and it is this same power of the people that keeps us strong in our service to the nation. The truth can never be hidden, never, and justice will always find its way to those who commit crimes, always.
Now in other news, on the 9th of November 2022, Singapore passed legislation empowering authorities to order social media platforms such as Facebook and TikTok to remove shocking content such as those promoting self-harm, terrorism, hate speech and other speech which is harmful to other religions. And under the law of Singapore, social media firms face a fine of up to $715,000 if they fail to comply. Now, in 2019, Singapore passed a law against online falsehoods, which the government said was aimed at fighting disinformation, but which political activists and tech giants criticized as restrictive. Now we'll bring you more details on this story shortly, but in other news, opinions were expressed during several press conferences held today regarding the statement made by the President recently about adopting laws similar to those existing in Singapore on the regulation of social media.
සමාජ මාධ්‍ය පාලනය කරන්න සිංගප්පූරුවේ ක්‍රමය පාවිච්චි කරනවා කියන්නේ.
Using laws in Singapore to regulate social media is a huge threat because Singapore ranks 139 in terms of media freedom in the world. We remember that social media played a massive role in chasing away Gotabaya Rajapaksa. They are attempting to adopt these laws out of the fear that the people would inevitably rise up in peaceful protest against this cancelled and rejected government. There are provisions in the penal code to deal with problems like this. The arm of law in this country is very strong. Therefore, we urge the government to not use draconian laws to regulate social media and take away the people's right to expression.
මේ රටේ ජනතාවගේ භාෂණ ප්‍රකාශන නිදහස් පාලනය කරන්න උත්සාහ කරන්නට එපයි කියන කාරණේ අපි ආණ්ඩුවට කියනවා. මේ මැතිවරණය කෙසේ හෝ කල් දාගත්තොත්
Ranil Wickremesinghe knows that if he somehow postpones his election, they can bring those provisions of oppression and even postpone future elections. He wants to continue to be in power with the ban of thieves of the SLPP that the people have already rejected.
පොහොට්ටුවේ කණ්ඩායමත් එක්ක එකට තව කාලයක් ඉන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. ජනතාව අවදි කරපු ප්‍රධාන මෙවලම සමාජ මාධ්‍ය.
Social media is the main tool that awakened the people. They are attempting to take away the people's right to expression. What right does he have to summon heads of media and say he will regulate social media? This is happening because he does not have the people's mandate. He is in power off the backs of 134 MPs who the people rejected. This is the time the election is announced. The Rajapaksa loyalists want to somehow eliminate this threat. Social media is very active during an
මැතිවරණයක් තියෙන මොහොතක සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ඉතාම සක්‍රියයි.
We asked Ranil to first focus on solving the people's problems before adopting laws from Singapore. We need a country where people can eat 3 meals a day. They are conspiring to bring in laws rather than fixing those. Ranil is trying to start a new facade with the Rajapaksas. Ranil is planning to oppress the people's right to expression and control the right to information. We tell Ranil and the Rajapaksas that you have failed to provide the political transition the people expected. The people can't be fooled anymore. They are playing chess within the parliament. They are playing games. We are ready to save democracy.
Now, the Ministry of Power and Energy says it is confident that the proposed electricity tariff hike will be approved by the Cabinet of Ministers tomorrow.
The Ministry of Power and Energy says a period of 1 week was given to the Cabinet to submit views with regard to the proposal to amend electricity bills, which was presented to Cabinet last week. The Ministry says it expects that the Cabinet, after taking those views into consideration, will approve the amended electricity tariffs tomorrow. The Ceylon Electricity Board expects that if electricity tariffs are increased and proper inputs for coal and fuel power plants are received, they will be able to provide an uninterrupted supply of electricity in the coming period. In the meantime, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka says it has forwarded a series of recommendations to the Cabinet with regard to the proposed electricity tariff amendments. Chairman Janaka Ratnayaka says prior to approving the proposal presented by the Ministry of Power and Energy to increase electricity bills, the Cabinet was requested to pay close attention to the data included in the recommendations made by the PUCSL.
At a time when a proposal to increase electricity tariffs is being discussed in the Cabinet, there is strong opposition against that proposal. The program of collecting signatures of 6.9 million people against the increase of the electricity tariffs, organized by the Electricity Users Association, continued for the 8th day today. The new program was held opposite the Katuapitiya Church in Negombo.
විදුලි බිල වැඩි වුණත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි ඒකට මිනිස්සු වශයෙන් පියවර ගන්න මොකද ඉස්සරහ ඡන්දෙකුත් වෙනවා මේ විදුලි බිල අපෙම විතර කය කරන්නේ නැතුව ඒක ලොකු මිනිස්සුන්ට දැනෙන්න ඕනේ
වැඩි කරක් ඉතින් ගෙවන්නේ කොහොමද අපි 1000 ගාණක් ගෙවපු එකට දැන් 3000 ගාණක් ගෙවනවා 3000 ගාණක් එහෙම් පිටින්ම ලයිට් බිල එකට ගෙවුවාම ඉතින් තව අනිත් දේවල් ගැන කතා කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ.
The government's first development project of the year 2000. The government's first development project of the year 2023 commenced today. The project will see the improvement of the Northern Railway line.
The railway line from Mahava to Omanthi is expected to be renovated. The cost of this project, conducted under the Indian loan facility, stands at $91 billion. Today's inauguration ceremony took place at the Madavachi railway station. It was held under the auspices of the Minister of Transport Bandula Gunawardana and Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle. Since renovations will take about 5 months to complete, from today onwards, the trains running from Colombo Fort to Kankasanture have been restricted from Colombo to Anuradhapura.
අලුත් ව්‍යාපෘති ආරම්භ කරන්න රජයට කිසිදු හැකියාවක් නැහැ.
The government has no ability to commence any new development projects. The government doesn't even have the ability to even bear the costs of daily expenditure or renewing costs. In a situation where the government cannot even think of a development project of this scale, we are extremely grateful to the Indian government for allowing us a helping hand under the Indian loan facility to solve one of the main obstacles in the Northern Railway line. As the minister in charge, I extend my gratitude to the Indian High Commissioner and all involved parties.
දියානු මහකුමසාරිස්තුමා ඇතුළු ඊට අදාළ සියලු පාර්ශ්වයන්ටත් විශේෂ භාර අමාත්‍යවරයා වශයෙන් මගේ ගෞරවයත් ස්තුතියත් ප්‍රණාමයත් පුද කරන්නට කැමැතියි.
On this important occasion today, when we are launching the work on the track between Anuradhapura and Medavachi, that this work is especially important because it will improve connectivity and mobility for the pilgrims, including the Buddhist pilgrims. We are also working very closely with the government of Sri Lanka to resume connectivity between India and Sri Lanka through the port of Kankasanture and God willing thereafter through Talai Minar to Rameshwar. That in this time we are not only here to support Sri Lanka in difficulty, but we are looking at Sri Lanka's future, how we can bring the two countries together.
State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that necessary steps will be taken to increase the export of local rubber-related products. The Ministry of Finance stated in 2022 the export of rubber-related products has increased by 39%, while the import of raw materials has decreased by 93%. Exports of rubber-related products, which were $1,050 million in 2021, have also grown to $1,463 million in 2022.
Now, according to a report, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that India's response to Sri Lanka's request for debt restructuring is expected by the end of January 2023.
The Hindu reports that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that India's response to Sri Lanka's request for debt restructuring is expected by the end of this month. Sri Lanka, which is trying to secure a $2.9 billion bridge loan from the International Monetary Fund, has been trying to get financial assurances from its major creditors, China, Japan and India, which is the requisite for Colombo to get the bailout package. According to the article, the president, talking to the media on Friday, said that he is hopeful of obtaining the $2.9 billion IMF facility in the first quarter of this year. He had earlier said that India and Sri Lanka held successful talks on debt restructuring, and the country will also begin discussions with China.
In news overseas, China has taken down more than 1,000 social media accounts, some with millions of followers, that criticized the government's COVID policies.
social media platform Weibo said it had suspended or banned accounts for what it described as personal attacks against Chinese COVID specialists. Weibo did not specify which posts had prompted the act. China scrapped its strict zero-COVID policy in December and has seen a rapid surge of infections and deaths. Online criticism has until recently largely focused on the strict enforcement of COVID regulations, including lockdowns that required people to stay at home in isolation for weeks. But recent posts have taken aim at experts who have defended the sudden decision to drop restrictions despite supporting them just weeks ago. Weibo said it had spotted almost 13,000 violations, including attacks on experts, scholars and medical workers. Temporary or permanent bans have been handed over to 1,120 accounts.
Now at least 40 people have been killed and 87 injured after two buses collided near Kaffrine in central Senegal. Now, the accident took place on the number 1 national road at 3:15 a.m. today.
President Macky Sall said 40 people were killed in the grave accident and announced 3 days of national mourning. The fire brigade said the bus with a 60-seat capacity was heading to Rosso, adding that the number of people on board was unknown. Colonel Sheikh Fall, head of operations at the National Fire Brigade, told foreign media it was a serious accident, adding that 87 people were injured in the incident. He further said victims were taken to a hospital and medical center in Kaffrine and that the wreckage and demolished buses have since been cleared and normal traffic has resumed.
Now, another protest of the island-wide protests conducted by the Socialist Youth Union against the current government was held in Mahiyangane today. Now, this protest was held with the participation of a group of young people against repression, the rise in cost of living and increase of electricity tariffs. A new fungus that affects paddy cultivations in the country has been identified. Now, the Ministry of Agriculture states that this fungus has been detected in several districts. Now, for more details on that story, just visit Newsfirst.lk and all of our social media platforms. And with that, we wrap up our news for tonight on TV1. Thank you for watching.